The Silent Hunters. The Corvani Empire rules. For 300 years, the Corvani Empire had ruled the outer rim of the galaxy with iron fists and plasma cannons. 47 star systems bowed before their might, and countless species paid tribute to avoid total destruction. The Corvani were tall, proud warriors with pale skin, sharp features, and eyes that burned with ambition. Their mercenary fleets swept through space like cosmic storms, taking what they wanted and destroying what they could not use. General Thane Korvac stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator, watching another conquered world spin slowly beneath him. The planet's cities glowed like dying embers, their defenses shattered, their people already being processed for slavery or conscription. This was how the galaxy worked. The strong took from the weak, and the Corvani were the strongest of all. General, his communications officer called out, voice tight with confusion. We're receiving reports from the Vega sector. The Iron Fist battle group has gone silent. Korvac turned, his scared face showing mild interest. Battle groups went silent sometimes. Equipment failed, crews mutinied, or they simply ran into something bigger and nastier than themselves. When was their last transmission? 14 hours ago, sir. They reported entering the Kepler system for routine patrol. Since then, nothing. Send the Bloodhammer to investigate, Korvac ordered, already turning back to watch the planet below. If they found something valuable, I want to know about it. But 3 days later, the Bloodhammer also went silent. The ghost signatures. The Corvani Empire had never faced a mystery like this. Over the next 2 months, 7 more battle groups vanished without a trace. Not destroyed, because debris fields left evidence. Not captured, because no one in the galaxy had the power to capture entire Corvani fleets. Simply gone, as if they had been erased from existence. Korvac gathered his war council in the depths of the Devastator. The room was dark and cold, filled with holographic displays showing the locations of the disappearances. Red dots marked where proud Corvani fleets had last been seen. The pattern made no sense. Our scouts have found something, reported Commander Nexus, the fleet's intelligence chief. His voice carried a tremor that Korvac had never heard before. At each disappearance site, our sensors detect traces of unknown energy signatures. The technology is unlike anything in our databases. Unknown. Korvac's voice was dangerous. Nothing in this galaxy is unknown to us. These signatures are faint, almost invisible. Whatever created them uses some form of advanced stealth technology. Our enemies can move through space without being detected until it's too late. The War Council fell silent. The Corvani had built their empire on superior firepower and fear. The idea that someone could hide from them, strike at them invisibly, was deeply unsettling. What do our captured scientists say? Asked another commander. They're terrified, Nexus admitted. Some refuse to even look at the data. Others claim the signatures belong to something that shouldn't exist. They call them ghost readings. Korvac slammed his fist on the table. I don't believe in ghosts. Find me answers, or find me new scientists. The human fleet. 20 light-years away, Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the UES Phantom, watching stars wheel slowly past the transparent aluminum windows. She was younger than most fleet commanders, only 35, but her dark eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen too much war. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her uniform bore the simple insignia of the United Earth Systems. Commander, her communications officer reported, we've received confirmation from all stealth wings. The Corvani patrol groups have been successfully neutralized. Elena nodded without emotion. Casualties? None on our side. The Corvani never saw us coming. This was how humans had learned to fight in the dark years after leaving Earth. Not with massive fleets and overwhelming firepower, but with intelligence, stealth, and perfect coordination. While other species built bigger guns, humans have built better tactics. Dr. Sarah Chen, the fleet's chief scientist, approached Elena with a datapad in her hands. Sarah was small and quiet, the kind of person who could disappear in a crowd, but her mind was one of the sharpest in human space. "The adaptive camouflage systems are performing beyond expectations," she reported. "Our ships can now mimic local space conditions so perfectly that even active scans can't detect us." "And the Corvani?" Elena asked, confused and frightened. Their empire has never faced an enemy they couldn't see or understand. "According to our intelligence, they're calling us ghosts." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Fear makes people make mistakes. How long before they send a larger force to investigate?" "Based on their military doctrine, I estimate 72 hours. They'll send at least 2 full battle groups this time. Then we'd better be ready to give them a proper welcome." First contact. The Corvani response was predictable. General Korvac himself led a massive task force into the Kepler system, determined to solve the mystery of the vanishing fleets. 50 warships, the pride of the Empire, jumped into the system in perfect formation. Their sensors swept space in all directions, seeking any trace of the enemy. They found nothing. "Sir," the sensor officer reported, "all scans negative. No ships, no stations, no signs of recent battle." Korvac studied the displays with growing frustration. Where his missing fleets had once patrolled, there was now only empty space and distant stars. "Expand the search pattern. Whatever destroyed our people, it's still here." But the humans were already moving. Captain Marcus Stone, Elena's most trusted officer, commanded the lead squadron of stealth ships. His vessel, the Shadow's Edge, drifted silently through space just 5 kilometers from the Corvani flagship. The adaptive camouflage made his ship invisible, a ghost among the stars. "All units, this is Ghost Leader," Marcus whispered into his comm. "Target confirmed. The Corvani have brought their best toys to play with." Elena's voice crackled back through the encrypted channel. "Remember, Captain, we want them to see us this time. It's time for the galaxy to know that humanity has arrived." The human ships moved with perfect synchronization, a deadly dance choreographed through months of practice. One moment, the space around the Corvani fleet was empty. The next, 40 human vessels shimmered into existence, their stealth systems deactivating in unison. On the bridge of the Devastator, alarms began screaming. "Contact," the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple ships surrounding our formation." Korvac stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The enemy had appeared from nowhere, already in perfect attack position. But as the images cleared, his confusion deepened into something approaching horror. The enemy ships were sleek and advanced, clearly built by a highly sophisticated civilization. But the beings visible through their viewports, the faces staring back at him across the vacuum of space, looked exactly like Corvani. The revelation. "Open a communication channel," Elena ordered. She stepped forward on the bridge of the Phantom, her hands clasped behind her back, her expression calm and professional. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Corvani flagship. Elena found herself face to face with General Korvac, and she could see the shock in his eyes as he realized what he was looking at. "I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Systems," she said clearly. "General Korvac, I presume." Korvac's mouth opened, then closed. He had expected aliens, monsters, or at least beings that looked different from his own species. Instead, he was staring at a woman who could have been born on any Corvani world. The same pale skin, the same sharp features, the same basic bone structure. Only her dark hair and strange uniform marked her as foreign. You look like us," he finally managed. Elena tilted her head slightly. "Do we? How interesting. Perhaps we should discuss that, along with your empire's habit of enslaving innocent worlds." "What are you?" Korvac demanded, his warrior's pride fighting against his growing fear. "We are human," Elena replied simply, "and we are here to inform you that your reign of terror is over." The communication channel filled with tension as both sides studied each other. The Corvani had ruled through strength and fear, crushing anyone who opposed them. But now they faced an enemy who looked like them, fought like them, but possessed technology and tactics that made them seem like ghosts. The first battle. Korvac's training took over. Whatever these humans were, wherever they had come from, they were still outnumbered. All ships, open fire. Destroy them. The Corvani fleet erupted in plasma fire, their massive guns unleashing enough energy to level continents. But the human ships moved like nothing Korvac had ever seen. They didn't dodge the incoming fire so much as flow around it, their formations shifting and adapting with impossible precision. Elena watched the battle unfold with clinical interest. Dr. Chen, activate the mirror shields. Mirror shields online, Sarah reported. The human ships suddenly began reflecting the Corvani plasma fire back at its source. Massive energy beams bounced off the human vessels like light off water, redirected with deadly accuracy toward the Corvani formation. 2 Corvani destroyers exploded in brilliant flashes as their own weapons were turned against them. How is this possible? Korvac roared. His tactical officer was pale with shock. General, their technology is decades ahead of ours. Our weapons are useless against their defenses, but they're turning our own firepower against us. Elena's voice cut through the chaos. General Korvac, you have 30 seconds to stand down before we demonstrate what human weapons can do. Korvac looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. For 300 years, the Corvani had been the apex predators of the galaxy. Now, for the first time, they were prey. Cease fire, he ordered reluctantly. All ships, cease fire. The space between the 2 fleets fell silent except for the crackle of dissipating energy. Elena nodded approvingly. Wise choice, General. Now shall we discuss the future of your empire? The new reality. In the days that followed, word of the encounter spread through Corvani space like wildfire. The Empire's invincible fleets had been defeated by an unknown enemy that looked exactly like them, but fought with impossible skill and technology. On worlds across the Empire, slaves looked up at the stars with new hope. Subject species whispered of liberation, and in the dark corners of the galaxy, other powers began to wonder if the age of Corvani dominance was finally coming to an end. Elena stood once again on the observation deck of the Phantom, but now she was not alone. Captain Stone joined her, his weathered face reflecting the starlight. The Corvani are requesting formal negotiations, he reported. General Korvac wants to know our terms. Elena smiled, but it was not a kind expression. Our terms are simple, Marcus. The Empire ends. The slaves go free. And the Corvani learn what it means to be judged by their actions. And if they refuse. Elena's eyes reflected the cold light of distant stars. Then they'll discover why mercenaries throughout the galaxy are beginning to tremble at the mention of humanity. We gave them a demonstration today. Next time, we'll give them a war. The human fleet hung in space like a promise and a threat. They looked like the Corvani, shared the same basic form and features, but they represented something entirely different. Where the Corvani had chosen conquest and cruelty, humans had chosen cooperation and justice. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between the two. The Reckoning. The War Council. Deep within the fortress world of Corvani Prime, the Empire's greatest military minds gathered in desperate council. The massive chamber had witnessed 3 centuries of victory celebrations, but today it rang with voices of confusion and fear. General Korvac sat at the head of the obsidian table, his scarred hands gripping the armrests of his chair as he listened to report after report of impossible defeats. 7 more patrol fleets have gone missing in the outer sectors, reported Admiral Vex, her usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. The humans strike without warning, disable our ships, and simply vanish. Our crews are found unharmed, but completely demoralized. They're not trying to destroy us, observed Commander Nexus, studying holographic battle reports. They could have annihilated our fleets, but instead they leave our people alive and terrified. It's psychological warfare on a scale we've never encountered. Korvac's voice rumbled through the chamber like distant thunder. These humans fight like cowards, hiding in shadows and using tricks instead of facing us with honor. General, Nexus said carefully, I've analyzed their tactics extensively. They're not cowards. They're something far more dangerous. They're strategists. Every move they make serves multiple purposes. They weaken our forces, demoralize our crews, and demonstrate their superiority all at once. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Corvani had built their empire on straightforward principles: superior firepower, aggressive tactics, and absolute ruthlessness. But the humans were playing an entirely different game, one the Corvani barely understood. There's something else, Nexus continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. Our xenobiologists have been studying the images from our encounters. The humans aren't just similar to us. They're identical. Same bone structure, same muscle distribution, same basic physiology. It's as if they're a mirror image of our own species. General Korvac leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, General. I'm stating a fact. These humans are genetically compatible with Corvani. They could be our cousins, our lost brothers, or something even closer. The diplomatic gambit. Commander Elena Vasquez received the Corvani message while reviewing tactical reports in her ready room aboard the Phantom. The communication was formal, almost stiff, but she could read the desperation beneath the diplomatic language. They want to negotiate, she told Dr. Sarah Chen and Captain Stone during their morning briefing. General Korvac is offering to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. Sarah looked up from her research tablet, her scientific mind already analyzing the implications. It could be a trap. The Corvani aren't known for their diplomacy. Of course it's a trap, Elena agreed with a slight smile. But it's also an opportunity. We've been fighting in the shadows for months. It's time to step into the light and show the galaxy who we really are. Captain Stone frowned, his tactical instincts on high alert. Commander, if we reveal our full capabilities, we lose our advantage of surprise. Elena stood and walked to the viewport, gazing out at the distant stars. Marcus, we've already accomplished our primary objective. The Corvani Empire is crumbling from within. Their subject species are rebelling, their own forces are questioning orders, and their enemies are growing bold. Now we need to ensure that what replaces their empire is better than what came before. She turned back to her officers, her decision clear in her dark eyes. Prepare a diplomatic escort. We're going to meet with General Korvac face to face. And Sarah, bring your historical research. It's time the Corvani learned the truth about who we are. The meeting. The neutral space station, where the meeting took place, was ancient even by galactic standards, a relic from the early days of interstellar civilization. Its rotating rings provided artificial gravity for a dozen different species, and its diplomatic protocols had been refined over centuries of interstellar politics. Elena arrived with a small but impressive escort, 3 sleek human vessels that seemed to bend light around them, making them difficult to focus on directly. General Korvac brought a full battle group, but kept them at respectful distance as his shuttle approached the station. The meeting chamber was deliberately sparse, containing only a simple table and chairs arranged for beings of roughly human size. As Elena entered, followed by Sarah and 2 security officers, she saw Korvac already waiting with his own advisors. The moment of recognition was electric. Across the small space, 2 species that could have been twins stared at each other with growing understanding and fear. General Korvac, Elena said formally, taking her seat across from the Corvani leader. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Korvac's eyes never left her face. You look exactly like us. How is this possible? Elena glanced at Sarah, who activated a small holographic projector. Images filled the space between them. Star charts, DNA analysis, and historical records that told an incredible story. 800 years ago, Sarah began, your empire was much smaller than it is today. During your expansion phase, you established colonies on distant worlds to claim territory and resources. One of those colonies was placed on a planet you called Corvani 7, in what is now known as the Sol system. Korvac leaned forward, his face pale. That colony was lost. A plague, according to our records. Everyone died. Not everyone, Alina said quietly. The colonists didn't die from plague. They died from war. Your empire abandoned them when a rival species attacked, leaving them to fight alone with limited resources and no support. The holographic display showed images of ancient battles, desperate survivors, and the gradual transformation of a dying colony into something new. The survivors adapted, Sarah continued. They learned to work together in ways that Corvani society had never encouraged. They developed new technologies, new tactics, new ways of thinking. Over 8 centuries, they evolved into something your empire had never seen, a truly cooperative civilization. You're saying humans are descended from Corvani colonists? Korvac's voice was barely a whisper. Elena nodded. We are what you could have become, General. What you still could become if you choose to change. The truth unveiled. The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. Elena could see the shock and disbelief warring across Korvac's face as he struggled to process what he had learned. This is impossible, one of Korvac's advisors protested. The genetic drift alone should have made such similarity impossible over 8 centuries. Sarah smiled, her scientist's enthusiasm overcoming the diplomatic tension. Under normal circumstances, yes, but the original colonists were a carefully selected group, representing the best genetic diversity Corvani science could provide, and the environmental pressures they faced selected for very specific traits: intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability. We are what your species could have become, Elena repeated, if you had chosen cooperation over conquest, unity over dominance. Korvac's scarred hands clenched on the table. You're telling me that my empire's greatest enemy is our own lost children. Not your enemy, General. Your reflection. We are showing you what Corvani civilization could achieve if it chose a different path. The Corvani delegation exchanged uncertain glances. Everything they believed about their empire, their superiority, their right to rule, was crumbling before their eyes. What do you want from us? Korvac asked finally. Elena's expression hardened. We want you to stop. Stop the conquests, stop the slavery, stop the casual cruelty that has defined your empire for centuries. Your people have the same potential for greatness that we've achieved, but you'll never reach it while you're focused on dominating others. And if we refuse? Elena's smile was cold as vacuum. Then you'll discover what 8 centuries of cooperative evolution can produce when applied to warfare. The final demonstration. As if summoned by her words, new contacts appeared on the station's sensors. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ships dropped out of hyperspace around the meeting point. They were sleek and deadly, their designs clearly human but more advanced than anything the Corvani had seen before. Captain Stone's voice crackled through Elena's communicator. Commander, the full battle fleet has arrived as scheduled. Admiral Torres requests permission to begin tactical demonstrations. Elena never took her eyes off Korvac. Permission granted, Captain. Show our guests what human cooperation can accomplish. The space around the station filled with light as the human fleet performed maneuvers that defied everything the Corvani thought they knew about space combat. Ships moved in perfect synchronization, their formations shifting and flowing like living things. Energy weapons fired in complex patterns that created geometric shapes in space, while defensive systems activated in sequence to create walls of force that could stop anything. 15,000 ships, Sarah said quietly, reading from her tablet. This is just the advance fleet. Our main forces are still assembling. Korvac stared at the display, his face ashen. 15,000. How many ships do you have in total? Elena's expression was unreadable. Enough, General. More than enough. The demonstration continued for an hour, showcasing human technology and tactics that were decades ahead of anything in the galaxy. The Corvani delegation sat in stunned silence, watching their military superiority evaporate before their eyes. Finally, Elena raised her hand, and the fleet formations dispersed, returning to their positions around the station. "You have a choice to make, General," she said simply. "You can try to fight us and watch your empire burn, or you can join us and help build something better." The new alliance. General Korvac was quiet for a long time, staring at his hands as he wrestled with the implications of everything he had learned. Around him, his advisors waited tensely, knowing that the next word spoken would determine the fate of the galaxy. "If we agree to your terms," he said finally, "what guarantee do we have that you won't simply conquer us as we conquered others?" Elena leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. "You have no guarantee except our word and our history. We could have destroyed your fleets instead of disabling them. We could have attacked your worlds instead of your military forces. We could have conquered your empire in the time it took us to arrange this meeting. But we didn't. Why? Because conquest creates only temporary peace, General. What we're offering is permanent change. We want partners, not subjects. We want to help you become what you were always capable of being." Korvac looked around the table at his advisors, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in their faces. For 300 years, the Corveni way had been the only way they knew. The idea of cooperation instead of domination was almost incomprehensible. "What would this partnership look like?" he asked cautiously. Elena activated her own holographic display, showing star charts and development plans that took his breath away. "We help you transform your empire into a federation of equals. Your subject species become partners instead of slaves. Your military becomes a peacekeeping force instead of a conquering army. And together, we work to build a galaxy where cooperation and mutual benefit replace fear and oppression." "The other empires would never accept such changes," protested one of Korvac's advisors. Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. "General, you've seen what one human fleet can accomplish. Do you really think the other empires will have a choice?" The decision. The meeting lasted for 6 more hours as details were negotiated and plans were made. Elena could see the transformation happening in Korvac's face as he began to understand the possibilities that cooperation could offer. The Corveni Empire had been built on the assumption that strength came from dominance, but the humans were offering something far more powerful: strength through unity. "There will be resistance," Korvac warned as the negotiations drew to a close. "Many of my commanders will see this as surrender rather than evolution." "Then they'll learn," Elena replied simply. "Those who can adapt will thrive. Those who can't will be replaced. By force. By example. When your people see what cooperation can accomplish, when they see former slaves becoming partners and enemies becoming allies, when they see the prosperity and peace that follows, the resistance will crumble on its own." Korvac stood slowly, his decision finally made. "Very well, Commander Vasquez. The Corveni Empire formally requests to join your federation." Elena stood as well, extending her hand across the table. "Welcome to the future, General Korvac." As their hands clasped, the two leaders, one representing humanity's potential, the other representing its forgotten past, sealed an agreement that would reshape the galaxy. Outside the station, human and Corveni ships began the delicate process of forming joint patrols, while across the Empire, former slaves looked up at the stars and dared to hope. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. And throughout the galaxy, those who had once trembled before the Corveni Empire now whispered a new name with equal parts fear and hope: humanity. They looked like the Corveni, fought like angels, and thought like gods. And they were just getting started.